Dave Ramont was born on November 20th, 1926 in Modesto, California. He was happily raised by his grandparents Oscar and Nellie Jennings, who ranched and farmed in Patterson on the west side of Stanislaus County. Dave attended Jennings Elementary School and dreamed of being a cowboy. As a young boy, he quickly found his way to the neighboring ranches where he began learning the foundation and skills it would take to be a cowboy. He started competing in local rodeos at a young age and won the bull riding at Clements Rodeo at the ripe old age of 14. It was pretty evident that Dave had a passion for ranching and rodeo. A witty sense of humor and a keen sense of style best describes a young Dave Ramont. It was Phil and Lois Stadler who introduced the young cowboy to a pretty little city gal from Modesto by the name of Viola Nipper.
Well, we went to the rodeo in Sonora. Lois and I and Dave and Squirt. So that was probably their first meeting.
In 1946, the November issue of Hooves and Horns magazine made the announcement that Dave Ramont and Viola Nipper, who was known to her friends as Squirt, eloped to Reno and were married on August 24th. They would live on the ranch on Jennings Road.
Goddamn if I know how she got that name. I think her mother named her Squirt, I think. I'm pretty sure she did. Yeah, when they got married, after they were married to Squirt, why, he was very jealous of her all the time. You couldn't hardly talk to her. He'd get mad.
Dave, or DR as most people called him, worked at various jobs, such as with the mosquito abatement, Pleasant Valley farming, and the Turlock Fairgrounds. He still continued to enter local jackpot ropings and rodeos, and Squirt went right along with him. Oftentimes, she worked as a timer or did other rodeo secretarial duties. In 1950, Dave and Vi were living in Denair when their son Bob was born. In 1953, they welcomed daughter Pat to the family. In 1955, Dave was offered a business opportunity that he just could not refuse. So the young family moved to Waterford, where they operated a dairy for about 8 years. It was there that they welcomed 2 more sons to the Ramont clan, John in 1955 and Jim in 1962. But the lifestyle of a dairyman just wasn't for Dave. While it seemed lucrative at the time, Dave wanted to return to his passion of cowboying. The terms rancher, cowboy, stockman, and rodeo champion all applied to Dave Ramont. And when you looked at him, you saw a cowboy in every sense of the word. He could do it all. He started his own colts and could make a rope horse out of something that most other cowboys would have just given up on. In 1959, he won a go-round and the average in the team roping with partner Earl McCleskey at the prestigious California Rodeo in Salinas. In 1964, Dave started working for Clyde Booth, breaking colts and taking care of about 1,200 head of cattle. Another daughter, Jenny, was born that same year. The family was now living in Oakdale, and Dave was leasing space at the stables, which was located adjacent to the rodeo grounds. There, he could take on even more colts while also riding some racehorses for Everett Booth. When he wasn't riding colts or racehorses, he would day work for other local ranchers in the area. Dave and Vi were hard workers and did whatever was needed to provide for their family. Dave also started acquiring his own herd of cattle. What he accumulated over the years he did pretty much on grit, nerve, and mediocre credit. He wasn't part of the landed gentry and had no one to catch him if he fell. So in the early days he depended on his wife and kids to be his ranch help. They were all he could afford. In July of 1968, Dave was working for Gene Rolfe. He later partnered with Gene to purchase 900 head of steers from Colin Harvey and Phil Stadler. They would drive 450 steers a day from the Finney Ranch to the Rouse Ranch, which was about 10 miles away in Roberts Ferry. DR was now in the cattle business and began acquiring even more cattle and more pasture leases. In 1988, at the age of 62, Vi passed away. Dave handled his loss through the help of family and friends, with the most important friend being Verlene McCleskey. Dave and Verlene married and moved to the ranch in LaGrange, where he continued to run the business he and Vi had built together. Running a lot more cattle now required more day help. Aside from his sons, he often found help from Jim Wheatley, Joe Murray, John Smalley, and Barry Qualley, just to name a few. It was widely known that Dave was intolerant of incompetent cowboys, so when you day worked for Dave, you could be sure it would be a good crew. Intolerant and incompetent are harsh words, but that's about as gently as it can be said.
One time he asked me if I could come and help him brand some calves. And I said, yeah, I'll help you. He said, well, get another guy to come and help. I said, okay. He said, now listen, he says, I don't want no wannabes, and I don't want no has-beens. He says, I'm looking for an iser. And he always would have words like that, you never hear, what's an iser, But Dave, he always had the little sayings like that. And then he would come up with something like, you would see him and you'd say, hey, you won't believe what I did yesterday. And he would do something stupid and tell on himself. And just, he'd get the biggest kick out of that. He would laugh if somebody else had trouble. He would laugh if he had trouble, Dave had that side to him. He could be, maybe say a lot of stuff, maybe not for mixed company, but Dave, he was pretty funny. And if he was your friend, he was your friend. And if he wasn't, you knew it too.
From that day on, iser became a part of the vocabulary. In spite of Dave's expectations, working with or for him was always a good time. For all his gruffness, he had a sense of humor second to none. Dave's speech could be, shall we say, very colorful at times. Friends and family called it his romanticisms or DR-isms. Once, when asked about a horse's potential as a head horse, his answer was, why, he couldn't pull a sick whore off a piss pot. Translation, might work better as a Western pleasure prospect. When he observed an inept wannabe in Jordan Valley, Nevada, a place Dave referred to as the land of shaps, taps, and latigo's traps, this became his synonym for buckaroo. And his comment was, you can tell a lot about a guy by the shape of his hat. Most of these DR-isms were more than off-color and far less than politically correct. It's a shame you can't tell the best stories about DR in public. There's lots of them, but those that know him still love hearing them. Dave used to tell his children, once you get over Gene Autry and Roy Rogers, you can't have any heroes. You need to be your own hero. Dave passed away on November 4th, 2001. He came from humble beginnings, knowing exactly what he wanted to be. He had no contingency plan and left a legacy of inspiration and wisdom for his family and those who knew and loved him and Vi. The Oakdale Cowboy Museum is proud to recognize Dave and Vi Ramont as our 2010 Memorial honorees.